How to get rid of an accent. This is a question we're often asked at VoiceOver Masterclass, and often by people who aren't professional voiceovers themselves, but look to us for expertise. There's a free PDF checklist you can download for this, by the way. Just click the link, no email or anything needed. The thing is that if you're living in a country that's not the one you've been brought up in, and you're trying to communicate better with everyone, you shouldn't really think about it as getting rid of or losing an accent. Us professional voice actors do our best to actually learn accents, as many as we can, so that we have a variety of voice recording work. For me, for one script, I may be asked to sound like a BBC documentary narrator. The next job may be to pretend to be a German scientist for a computer game, a Russian soldier, or maybe a mid-Atlantic or semi-American accent for a commercial for an international use. So it's not about losing anything. It's about gaining the skill to understand and learn a new accent. Also, remember, for authenticity, you also need to be able to learn the differences in words as well as pronunciations. For example, if you're British and you want to fit into North American life, you will need to learn the differences in words, such as diaper for nappy, sidewalk for pavement, flashlight for torch, and so on. And you'd also need to learn the differences in pronunciations for certain words, such as detail and process, and so on. So what about the actual voice accent itself? Well, if you've been brought up in a country that has a language different from English, quite often the way you use your mouth and the whole of your vocal apparatus will be different, and there are certain sounds that you will find very easy to do and some in English that you will find very difficult. Some languages use the back of the throat a lot and some not, so you need to understand how to adapt the way you speak in some circumstances. It depends on where you've been brought up. It works the other way too, of course, if you are a native British person and you wish to live in Germany or Austria. No matter how well you've learnt the German language and all the colloquialisms and so on, try saying over the bridge or über die Brücke in the English language. You see, the U umlaut sound simply doesn't exist at all in English, so you have to learn it. It's very hard. Oh yes, you're laughing now, you Germans. You see, you've got something that we haven't got. We've got things you haven't got. Now, rather than spend time here going through all the various countries, there are a lot of good resources on the web to identify what these particular voice characteristics are for many countries' native languages on websites such as pronunciationstudio.com and so on. Next, even if you're not an actor or don't want to be, just pretend that you are, and it will help you enormously. Imagine that you've got a starring part in a movie pretending to be a native of that country. First of all, you need to identify what type of voice you have, and then find a recording, it may be on YouTube or a news website or whatever. Identify somebody who has a very similar voice to you. So in other words, you need to find someone of the same sex, similar age, similar depth of voice, similar style of speaking. However, this person needs to have an accent that you want to emulate. Take one phrase or sentence at a time and really analyze this section of speech. If you happen to have any audio processing software, like us voiceovers have, just look at the waveform, look at the peaks and the troughs, the timing of the words and the gaps between the words. You see, these considerations are just as important as actually how you say the words. English speakers often speak with a lot of light and shade, and it comes to timing the syllables and the words. The spaces between words in English quite often are dramatic, darling. Whereas in many Latin languages, every syllable seems to have the same time and emphasis. People also tend to speak faster in certain countries. The melody of speech is different in many cultures. So that's why you need to analyze in great detail phrases from the country you want to sound at home in. Let's say I wanted to sound like a BBC Radio 4 announcer. I would find a recording of a radio announcer and play it back. BBC Radio 4. Now the news at 6 o'clock. Then I'd hear it again and again, then repeat this phrase along with it, and then stop the playback and record it just myself into another machine. What does it sound like? You need to do this again and again with various phrases that you've found from the person you want to emulate, and you will discover that certain phrases you get absolutely right. You sound very authentic, and they completely work for you in every way. So, take note of what these phrases are that you can perform very well. These will become your anchor phrases. They will help you to program your mind when you're about to speak. So, once you've memorized these phrases that you get absolutely right in your training, in real life, you would say these anchor phrases under your breath before you open your mouth to others. Saying one of your anchor sentences will help your brain to stay in the zone of that accent, and you should be able to stick to the accent in conversation far better. They don't have to be long anchor phrases. I know some British voiceovers who can get into the zone of being an American simply by saying sure or whatever. If you're a Monty Python fan and you have to do a comedy French accent, no doubt one of your anchor phrases would be, "Oh yes, it's very nice," or whatever. You see, these anchor phrases should really work for you, and over time, if you continue your training doing this, you'll get more and more of these anchor phrases in your repertoire, and soon you'll find you won't need to use them anymore before you speak, and you'll be naturally in the zone all the time. Long term, you need to listen to podcasts on the go with headphones on in the bus, train or whatever. Keep the radio on at home with the accent you want to learn. In Great Britain, for example, you would have BBC Radio on or LBC. You need to totally immerse yourself in the language and the accent. And it's amazing how quickly your brain will soak this up. And together, with regular practice, you will really crack this. Well, I hope you found this useful. If you'd like to know more about the wide variety of voice training courses that we have, please go to www.voiceovermasterclass.com or check out our Patreon channel. Thank you for watching.